The DC Universe, especially in the comics, has a wide variety of superheroes beyond the popular likes of Batman and Superman. One particular DC group of superpowered beings are known as the New Gods. They are a race of beings that live on the planets New Genesis and Apocalypse, in a realm known as the Fourth World. Today's video is about one of the strongest New Gods, Orion. Orion is an immensely strong character, and is often called the new god of war and soldiers. He is also the son of Darkseid, which automatically means that he is bound to be incredibly powerful. Here is all you need to know about Orion. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
And you will need it.
Exploring the backstory and origins of Orion. The creation of Orion is a story in and of itself. By the late 1960s, Jack Kirby, a top veteran artist for Marvel Comics, had grown tired of the way he was treated there and had quit Marvel to work for DC Comics. He started making a ton of new titles as soon as he got to DC, working with Carmine Infantino's editing skills. These stories, which appeared in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, New Gods, Mr. Miracle, and the Forever People, came to be known as Kirby's Fourth World saga. These tales all took place in the Fourth World and followed the exploits of a race of superhuman gods. The major character in the New Gods series was Orion, the second child of Apocalypse's tyrant and the darkest deity of them all, Darkseid, who appeared in the first issue. Orion has always been presented as a warrior, but since his introduction under Kirby's occasionally brutal pen, writers have tempered their portrayal of him. Orion was depicted in a way that was difficult to like in the original New Gods series. His demeanor veered between haughty and pompous, and it fell to supporting players like Orion's lifelong closest friend, Lightray, to lighten the mood. Perhaps because of this overbearing attitude, the initial series was cancelled, and DC didn't use the characters for another 5 years. Before moving on to Orion's origins, it's important to understand the dynamics of the Fourth World. The Fourth World is a region that lies beyond the recognized boundaries of our planet. There are 2 planets in the Fourth World that stand in direct opposition to one another. New Genesis, a land of brilliance, brightness, and joy, and Apocalypse, a realm of suffering, degradation, dirt, and sickness. Orion, the son of Tigra and Darkseid, was born in the gloomy darkness of Apocalypse. The leaders of Apocalypse and New Genesis finally found a method to mediate peace after fighting for eons. A peace agreement known as the Pact was formed when each side consented to have the planet's rulers gift each other a child for the other to raise and nurture. To accomplish this, Darkseid adopted Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, the son of Highfather Isaiah, while Highfather welcomed and fostered Orion. Given a premonition about Orion's destiny, Darkseid's decision to do this seemed dubious. It was prophesied that Orion, the son, would overcome his father in the last conflict between the two, which would determine the fate of Apocalypse and the war between the 2 worlds. Darkseid accidentally started a situation that he was otherwise certain would never happen. Orion was taught to suppress his rage and anger while growing up as Highfather Isaiah's son, which helped him become the most potent warrior either world has ever seen. Given that his ancestry simmered with the anger of the vicious and cruel Darkseid, this was not an easy feat in and of itself. Orion spent much of his adolescence learning how to manage his evil nature, but as he matured, his friends among the New Gods, especially Lightray, helped him contain his rage. Orion was also given a mother box, a sentient computer, to help control the evil rage that was boiling within him. The Highfather also taught Orion to revere the Source. This lesson gave Orion something to meditate on in order to control his rage. Later, he fell in love with and married Becca, the daughter of the rebellious Apocalyptian Hymen. Along with Lightray and Becca, Orion considers Metron, Jezebel, Scott Free, Big Barda, and Forager to be his friends. He is a hero who is devoted to New Genesis's principles. His combat prowess and tenacity have earned him the moniker the Dog of War. The anti-life equation, the source Darkseid was looking for, was found by Orion. After confronting Darkseid about his birth, he ultimately engaged in combat with him for control of Apocalypse. He vanquished Darkseid and took over Apokolips. Orion then went to Earth with the anti-life equation to start establishing intergalactic harmony. He created a utopian-style world on Earth, which upset the equilibrium of the cosmos. The implications of the anti-life equation were made clear by the revelation that Darkseid and Metron allowed Orion to beat them. Later, Orion was compelled to give up the anti-life equation's influence and concluded that it was for the best. Orion was also a member of the Justice League on 2 occasions. He initially demanded that he and his comrade Lightray be admitted to the League. They were welcomed into the group and remained there until the end of the conflict with the Evil Eye. Later, he and Big Barda were dispatched to the JLA to work as New Genesis operatives. Their goal was to assist in organizing Earth's heroes to thwart the approaching of the all-powerful Mageddon. He and Barda quit the League after Mageddon was vanquished. Thus, he has had quite the journey, which we will look at in detail later in this video. Some of Orion's memorable comic book story arcs. Orion has been in very many story arcs. However, here are 7 of his most memorable outings in DC Comics. Number 1. Meeting Superman for the first time. Orion has often shown himself to be a hero during his adventures. Superman was the first of Earth's heroes that he had the pleasure of meeting. Highfather dispatched him to get Superman to New Genesis so he would have the opportunity to talk to the Man of Steel. Due to Superman's poor understanding of the New Gods, he assaulted Orion in the manner he was accustomed to dealing with enemies. However, Orion quickly subdued the young Kryptonian using his physical strength and the Astro Harness after a brief struggle. Superman was able to surprise Orion and defeat him when he awakened on New Genesis after their arrival. Superman then decided to make a run for it, and Orion chased Kal-El into space, where he launched him into Supertown's floating fortifications with a heat vision burst. They eventually managed to overpower him with Metron's assistance, and Orion took him to Highfather in chains. Highfather reprimanded Orion and reminded him that they were looking for the Kryptonians' cooperation and help. Funnily enough, most of the future interactions between the two heroes would proceed in this way. Number 2. Fulfilling the Prophecy. Orion is on his way to the Source Wall to ask Highfather for advice when the story begins. During this time, Tigra, Orion's mother, informs him that he is not the son of Darkseid, but rather one of his commanders. Tigra further claims that if she had informed Darkseid that she was expecting someone else's child, Darkseid would have surely slain her for having an affair. She then gives her son instructions to find Darkseid and murder him to atone for the suffering she endured at his hands. Orion starts to mistrust himself because of this. He was said to be the son of Darkseid and the one who would defeat him in a duel to the death according to the prophecy. Was Orion really the god he believed himself to be all this time though, if what Tigra claimed was accurate? Was he actually the best defender of New Genesis against the opponent he saw as his physical equal? This led him down a dark spiral, and he went in search of Darkseid to seek answers. He searches for the anti-life equation since he knows that Darkseid would not be far away since he also wanted it, and he finally chances upon Darkseid in Nebraska. He is soon attacked by an insurgent group, and even though he wins the battle, he realizes that Darkseid has successfully acquired the anti-life equation. It is also during this time that his mother is forced to flee due to attacks on her, and she dies in Orion's arms, which leads Orion to vow revenge on behalf of his mother, further fueling his anger against Darkseid. The father and son duo finally confront each other in an epic battle on Apokolips. As part of the deal, before the battle between Orion and Darkseid, Orion set aside his mother box. The two titans engage in a cataclysmic confrontation in the subsequent War of Warriors, with powerful blows, fierce kicks, and utter contempt for each other's lives. In the end, the Dog of War emerges victorious, finally fulfilling the prophecy that he had been training for since he was a child. It turns out that Darkseid had intended to break his word and utilize his Omega Beams on Orion before the ultimate blow was delivered. However, Orion triggered an Astro Force shield, which diverted the Omega Beams back at Darkseid and appeared to kill him because he knew he could never rely on his father to honor his word. After that, Orion succeeds Darkseid as the King of Apokolips, promising to bring hope to the Dark Planet. Number 3. Becoming the ruler of the Dark Planet, Apokolips. Orion assumes the role of Apokolips's king, and during his mission to educate Apokolips, he meets Mortala, one of Darkseid's personal servants. Mortala helps Orion, among other things, in his fight against a Kalibak who has been strengthened not long after his struggle with Darkseid. As Orion pursues his goal of liberating Apokolips, he comes across one of Desaad's most horrifying inventions, the hundreds of Bates clones that have been imprisoned in an effort to solve the anti-life equation. Darkseid, who was an ardent follower of Darkseid and an ancient new god himself, devises a strategy to use the clones to murder Orion, since he doesn't want to watch all of his hard work go to waste. During this time, Orion starts to feel the Astral Force's strength ebbing away from him, yet he still succeeds in wiping out the clones and freeing their souls. When it is discovered that Darkseid helped in the attack on New Genesis' surface using an apocalyptic fire pit, tensions increase even more. Orion swears to end Darkseid's tyranny and bring peace to Apocalypse, no matter the cost. One of Darkseid's devoted minions tells Orion that Darkseid is hiding away in the caverns of the Dregs as they search for him. The Dregs turn out to be a trap for Orion, but he leaves unscathed, although the guardian dog Sirius becomes a casualty in the battle. Darkseid then flees to Earth to bring Orion there, so that utilizing the numerous copies of Bates, he can use Darkseid's Nebraskan stronghold to unleash the full force of the anti-life equation on the Dog of War. Darkseid tricks Orion, but Orion overpowers him and immediately snaps his neck, killing him. In exchange for helping to free their souls, Orion is subsequently given the entire power of the anti-life equation by the Bates clones that Darkseid's equipment had badly altered. Number 4. Finally acquiring the anti-life equation. Orion then made an effort to bring about intergalactic peace via the equation. He started his effort on Apocalypse by rescuing Granny Goodness's orphanage and forcing the attackers to submit to his orders. Orion then comes to Earth, a planet where pieces of the anti-life equation were found. After realizing the strength of the equation, Orion concludes that the anti-life equation may lead to humanity's demise if it is misused. Thus, Orion transforms Earth into a utopian society using the anti-life equation. Things do not turn out the way he wanted them to, as turning Earth into a utopian society upset the balance of the universe. What followed was a clash between the soldiers of New Genesis and Apocalypse. At the same time this was happening, Darkseid sent Gederath, a giant from the Promethean galaxy, to Earth with the mission of annihilating it. The soldiers of Apocalypse and New Genesis are subsequently forced to return home by Orion, who also coerces Lightray, Mortala, and Justine into helping him fight the monster using the anti-life equation. Orion also starts to understand the limitations of the equation at this point, because people under his control, who lack free will, are powerless to act until Orion wills them to. Later, Orion forces the giant to leave, which helps him understand the scope of his newfound abilities. Darkseid is then revealed to be alive, and Orion makes a promise to use the anti-life equation to put an end to him. Later, Orion orders his father to commit suicide as payment for all the atrocities he has committed by using the anti-life equation on him. But someone dressed as the Black Racer emerges and stops Darkseid from carrying out Orion's command. The Black Racer then blames Orion for upsetting the cosmic equilibrium between life and death by using the equation to force everyone to submit to his will. He also claims that Orion is acting like a despot on Apocalypse. He guides Orion through a doom tube which takes him away and deposits him on the abysmal plane. It turned out that all of this was Darkseid's doing. Number 5. Member of the Justice League. Orion has honorably served the League for 2 terms. The first time, he insisted on going into service with his companion Lightray. The two were accepted into the League's ranks and continued to serve until the League's victory over Evil Eye. Orion's further service was carried out with Big Barda as directed by Tachyon, who replaced High Father as the head of New Genesis after his death. The two were supposed to assist in getting ready for Mageddon's arrival. They participated in several remarkable missions as part of their preparation for this. In fact, after Starro's deeds had put nearly all of North America to slumber, Orion assisted in Starro's defeat. Orion and Barda offered their all to assist the League in fending off the menace when Mageddon came. After a few early failures, Orion decided to quit being cautious. He assaulted the omnipotent entity with all of his ferocity while giving his mother box to Oracle to help her coordinate, managing to do more damage than any other League member. He was able to keep it occupied until Superman ultimately absorbed the strength of its energy source. The enemy they had come to face was then vanquished, and Orion and Barda gave up their JLA membership, having completed their task. Number 6. Someone is killing the New Gods. One of the first people in New Genesis to realize what was going on during the end of the New Gods was Orion. Orion and his friends were shocked to discover that many New Gods were either dead or missing as they started their investigation. Orion initially put the blame on the Forever People, but as Tachyon and Hyman disproved that hypothesis, he hastily turned to his father Darkseid as the cause of their betrayal and the murders that followed. Tachyon persuaded him that it would be preferable to stay on New Genesis until the situation was evaluated, even if he intended to take the battle to Apocalypse. Then, Scott Free and Superman showed up together with the breaking news of Big Barda's death, which only added to the frustration. They attend Barda's funeral, and during this time, Orion decides that he wants to use the anti-life equation to halt the extinction of the New Gods race. They then head to Apocalypse, hoping to confront Darkseid and get information from him regarding the extinction of the New Gods. Orion and his companions are attacked by a horde of parademons as soon as they arrive on Apocalypse. The Dog of War easily overpowers them, and Darkseid's henchmen are no match for Orion. The group is then met with the sight of streets covered in the bodies of Darkseid's disciples as they proceed towards his stronghold. Orion and his companions are compelled to reconsider their assessment of Darkseid's guilt as they come upon even more deceased New Gods as they make their way further inside the Citadel. Finally, Superman serves as a diversion, and they are attacked by shadow demons that Darkseid himself has summoned to allow Orion and Mr. Miracle to keep traveling. With his incomplete understanding of the equation, Darkseid swiftly captures Orion and Mr. Miracle as they arrive. However, having complete command over the equation, Mr. Miracle sets them free. The Lord of Apocalypse is then captured, and all shadow demons are exiled. Orion and his companions proceed to interrogate Darkseid, but to no avail. They also learn that the Forever People are dead, and so is Tachyon, the current ruler of New Genesis, adding to their troubles. Orion and Superman return to New Genesis and start drawing their own conclusions. Both of them conclude that the murderer must be the Infinity Man. In the end, Orion makes the customary decision to challenge the God Killer to a duel. When he notices the killer coming, he rushes him on his astro harness, which causes a catastrophic explosion that results in his death. Even Superman was rendered blind by this enormous blast. He then returns to the source with his helmet left behind because of his rage. His father notices his passing, and for the first time, shows some emotion. Number 7. Prophecy fulfilled and subsequent death. Orion's story didn't finish there either. Later, it is found that the Source was able to get his soul back. The Source summons Orion to vanquish Darkseid when he challenges it using a potion that grants him access to all of the dead New God's strength. Orion fights his father after being transported back to an energy projection of his original body by the Source. Even with his new power enhancements, Orion is once again able to compete with Darkseid on an equal footing because, as his son, he has access to the same power. Orion is able to stop his father, and while the Source attempts to destroy Apocalypse, he later retreats. Darkseid cautions Orion as he takes off that their confrontation has merely been delayed. Orion follows Darkseid as he travels to Earth in an effort to take all of the power of the fallen gods from Jimmy Olsen. Orion faces his father one more time after being put back in his own body. The League watches as the two start a bloody fight on the streets of Metropolis. For a while, Orion can match his father blow for blow while referencing the prophecy. Then, Darkseid succeeds in taking control, but Orion is able to shift the balance back in his favor by channeling his wrath into power and forging forth. He then goes on to control the remainder of the fight, and he finally rips his father's heart out of his body, claiming that it is a fire pit big enough to carry out the prophecy. The last of the New Gods, Orion then walks off into the roads of Metropolis, refusing any assistance or care from the League members. Dan Turpin discovers Orion dead in a rubbish heap close to the docks of Metropolis after an unspecified period of time. Orion appears to be dying from his injuries from the conflict with his father, while Turpin attempts to reawaken him. He collects the last of his power to stand to his feet as the Black Racer towers over him. He makes an effort to warn Turpin and declares that Darkseid is indeed still alive and has not passed away. Then, Orion passed away, but his last words to humanity were to fight to help the Dog of War. His passing prompted an inquiry by the Justice League of America and the Green Lantern Corps of the Guardians of the Universe, which informed them of Darkseid's existence and precipitated the events of the final crisis. The investigation reveals that Darkseid used Metron's Mobius chair to launch a Radion bullet into the past, killing his son. The loss of Orion, the warrior god, had an impact on the superhero community as well. Their sense of purpose and ability to fight were diminished. However, this is not the end for Orion. The fifth world will presumably be born on Earth, proving that Highfather and Darkseid were correct. Through the anti-life equation, Darkseid and his elite have been able to seize control of Earth and prepare for the birth of the fifth world by possessing human hosts. Orion, the Dog of War, will be one of the New Gods that will re-emerge. Orion in Superman, the animated series. It is in Superman, the animated series, that Orion makes his DC Animated Universe debut. He appears in the two-part Apocalypse Now episode, and is voiced by Steve Sandor. Orion arrives on Earth in this narrative to alert Superman of Darkseid's imminent invasion. He reaches Earth via a boom tube and faints before he can pass on the information. Once he comes back to his senses, he explains the history of New Genesis and Apocalypse to Superman, and tells him about the hostility between the two worlds via his mother box, a living computer connected to the source. The mother box also tells him how there had been peace for a while due to Darkseid and the Highfather exchanging sons. However, it turned out that Darkseid used this chance to explore other planets and look for the anti-life equation. Now, Darkseid was hell-bent on conquering Earth. He armed human operatives with apocalyptian weapons, such as massive tanks, to carry out his evil plans. Superman and Orion are informed that hover tanks are assaulting an Air Force base shortly after they hear this. Orion immediately decides that he will stay on Earth and help Superman repel Darkseid. The two heroes arrive on the scene as human planes are unable to compete with the tanks. Orion intervenes to help Superman after he is injured by one of the tank's powerful energy surges running through its metal tentacle, saving the Man of Steel. While Superman saves the tank's pilots, Orion uses his cutting-edge technology to obliterate the other tanks. While Orion and Superman save the day together, Orion has the inkling feeling that Darkseid's plan has more in store for Earth and its heroes. It turns out that Orion was absolutely correct, since Darkseid seemed unfazed by his troops' loss in the tank battle. He then departs to report to New Genesis, but not before leaving Superman with a gadget to call for more assistance. At the very end of the episode, Darkseid blows up a nuclear reactor, leaving behind a major mess for Superman to clean up. In episode 2, we learn that the reactor would burn through the planet until it reached Earth's core, according to Professor Hamilton's computer simulation. As a result, there would be an explosion that would turn the Earth into a second apocalypse by covering it with burn holes. Seeing the dire situation, Superman tries to contact Orion, but the explosion destroys the system, rendering assistance from the new god impossible. The fight continues, and unfortunately, Superman is tired and beaten. Thinking that he has won, Darkseid parades a broken and restrained Superman on the front of his tank and proceeds to give a speech to all of humanity. Via his speech, he lets the people of Earth know that he is now their new ruler and he has successfully subjugated Earth. However, before he can do anything else, the people rise up again, and in a pleasant turn of events, Orion and other soldiers from New Genesis show up via a boom tube. Darkseid is informed by Orion that the Highfather is now protecting Earth, and that any attack would be in violation of their agreement. And, after a few remarks, Darkseid starts to turn away because he realizes that he does not want to risk breaking the peace that the two planets had managed to negotiate after a long period of hostility. Thus, Orion aids Superman in stopping Darkseid's invasion, and then informs Darkseid that Earth is now protected by Highfather, and that any attack will be viewed as a breach of the peace agreement between Apocalypse and New Genesis, saving the day when it seemed like all was lost, since even Superman had given up hope.
This is where you live?
Isn't it great? Low maintenance fees, and there's a launch.
He also appeared in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Ron Perlman provides the voice of Orion in the Justice League. He helps the Justice League in the two-part Twilight episode after Darkseid and Brainiac form an alliance. The two-part story has a bunch of twists and turns. In short, Darkseid approached Superman for help in defeating Brainiac and saving Apocalypse. Superman refuses since he is not a fan of Darkseid and could feel that something is terribly wrong. However, Batman convinced him to go and save the people of Apocalypse. Unfortunately, what Batman does not know is that Darkseid was simply using the heroes to trap Superman. As Superman fought against Brainiac, it was revealed that Darkseid and Brainiac had been working together the entire time. While Superman fought Brainiac, Batman and Wonder Woman went all the way to New Genesis to look for Orion and to ask for his help with defeating Brainiac. They enlist his help, and Orion comes along for the ride as well. However, during this time, Darkseid double-crosses Brainiac as well, and successfully traps Superman. It is then that finally, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Orion arrive on Brainiac's asteroid and engage the Brainiac's forces in combat. They successfully repel the forces, and Superman is freed. The battle continues, and memorably, Darkseid hugs Orion in this episode. Towards the end of the second episode, Orion gets knocked out in an explosion and is taken back to New Genesis via the boom tube once both Darkseid and Brainiac are defeated. Further, in the episode Hereafter, after, Orion also makes a brief appearance. Justice League Unlimited also features Orion, who was once more voiced by Ron Perlman. He joined the Justice League at the beginning of the series. He had cameo appearances in 3 episodes, namely Initiation, The Return, and Alive. In Justice League Unlimited's Flash and Substance, the 5th episode of the 3rd season, he makes a significant appearance. In this episode, he works together with Batman to help save the Flash's life when 4 of his foes, Mirror Master, Captain Cold, the Trickster, and Captain Boomerang join hands to carry out a plot to kill the Speedster. He starts off disliking the Flash, and even thinks that he is a buffoon. However, at the end of the episode, he realizes that the Speedster is more than qualified to be a member of the Justice League, and there is a reason why he was part of the original 7. This episode sees significant character growth on the part of Orion.
Yourself.
What makes Orion so powerful? The new gods have developed into entities of genetic stability and evolutionary perfection as a result of their intimate closeness to the Source, a primordial energy said to be one of the fundamental foundations of the universal expression of energy, as well as their advanced technology. Despite their similarities, the inhabitants of New Genesis are superior to Homo sapiens in terms of immortality, strength, speed, and intelligence. Orion is the most formidable new god from New Genesis, according to many. Orion is essentially immortal for all intents and purposes. Orion is functionally immortal, like all new gods, having stopped aging in his early 30s. Orion is also extraordinarily strong. Although his power cannot be measured, it is considered to be on par with that of his father, Darkseid. He has beaten Darkseid once in a direct confrontation, and has proven to be more than capable of competing with Major League stalwarts like Superman, Captain Atom, and Wonder Woman. Orion also has superhuman stamina and does not quickly get exhausted because of his fury. Orion is also capable of amazing feats of mobility, whether they are accomplished with or without the Astral Force's assistance or his astral harness. His alleged super speed is on par with Superman's. Aside from having superhuman speed, he also has superhuman reflexes and agility, making him quick enough to dodge apocalyptian laser fire while in a fight or flight position, and sharp enough to catch bullets in the air before they can hit him. Additionally, he is impervious to harm and strong enough to withstand having a portion of a city dropped on top of him and bounce back unscathed. Further, there is nothing reported to exist anywhere on Earth that can withstand or affect his power, making it virtually impossible to stop him. However, entities of equal or more power and barriers that draw their power from the source wall have been known to temporarily stop him. Additionally, he is resistant to the majority of penetrative damage, including radion, bullets, lasers, and apocalyptian fire talon bombardment. Orion once showed extraordinary sensory awareness after becoming blind, acting as though he could still see with his eyes. Because he is a new god, his senses of vision, taste, touch, smell, and hearing are far more developed than those of any human or mortal entity. Orion's healing factor makes it possible for him to recover rapidly from injuries, even if they are serious or many in number. When he sustains more severe wounds, he can use the Mother Box to cure himself, and even give him additional vitality so that he can keep fighting and living. Last but not least, Orion is immune to all illnesses and other such things because he is a new god. However, this is not all. Orion has the ability to control the Astral Force, an extraterrestrial force. This energy, often referred to as the Wrath of the Source, is strong enough to stun Starro, obliterate or move planets, shake solar systems, and even trap energies capable of wiping out the universe. It was trusted to him by the Highfather of New Genesis, and only the Omega Force under Darkseid's command is capable of matching it. Orion can release the Astral Force using either his wristbands or the Astro Harness. Orion can control almost all types of energy thanks to the Cosmic Force, which he uses for a variety of objectives. The blasts are so powerful that they can even stun an enraged Superman, sending him flying halfway across the Earth. He mainly uses it in tandem with his Astro Harness to effectively focus and enhance these energies, but he can also use it to decimate almost anything he selects to turn the Force on. Orion has also frequently used the Astro Force to manipulate and change matter as he sees fit. He may transform his everyday clothes into New Genesis attire, for instance. Beyond what would be typical for him naturally, Orion may use the astral energy to further improve his abilities. He can utilize it to numb pain and to reverse the reality warp that the source itself caused. He also has the capacity to voluntarily grow to amazing heights and weights. The new god can further use his own energy for unaided flight in the rare cases when he is without his usual mode of transportation. Orion has also used the Astral Force on numerous occasions to strengthen his resistance to dangerous circumstances, like the Morobox's life-sucking abilities which can dry up worlds, and also to shield himself from harm. Additionally, he can utilize it to free himself from a stasis field. That said, he is not completely without weaknesses. The Astral Force is effective as long as Orion's heart and determination are strong. If he starts to question himself or lose faith in any way, the energies will disperse and significantly weaken him. Additionally, Orion's self-worth plays a role in how the Force is used. If and when he behaves or acts in a way that the Force itself doesn't approve of, the Force will abandon him permanently. Additionally, Orion inherited all of his father Darkseid's fury and hatred for other people, but he evidently lacks Darkseid's innate mastery over it, which can cause him to attack people and things around him violently and irrationally if not restrained. It is thus quite clear that Orion is one of the strongest DC characters in existence. Even if you are someone who isn't the biggest fan of the New God's storyline, there can be no doubt that Orion is truly the new god of war. It might even be cool to see him in the upcoming live-action DC movies, even if it's just a cameo appearance. Would you like to see Orion in action on the big screen? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. This has been Corey Whelan for Marvelous Videos. Have a good one, be safe out there, and thanks for watching.